Welcome back to Advancing with Amy, mental health warrior and neurospicy mama. It's Amy here, and I'm super excited about today's episode because I have a very special guest joining me, my longtime friend, Nikki Williams. Nikki and I go way back. We're talking high school days way back and fun pampered chef parties kind of back. She's one of the most fascinating people I know. Nikki is neurodivergent, and she shares about her OCD and intrusive thoughts as well. But she's also a singer, a community theater enthusiast, and a psychic extraordinaire. She's got some seriously cool stories and insights to share about tarot, astrology, and tapping into your inner intuition. Plus, she's got a knack for turning everyday moments into something magical. Trust me, you're going to love her as much as I do. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of spirituality and a bit of kitchen fun with Nikki. All right, we're here with Nikki Williams today, and welcome, Nikki.
Hi, Amy. It's good to be here.
Yeah, Nikki is a longtime friend of mine. We went to high school together, and we just did a pampered chef party together.
Yes, we did. It was so much fun.
It was, and I got some good stuff that says it's coming Monday.
Oh, that's great. I do think the air fryer ovens are on back order, so be aware of that.
I was told that, but then it says it's coming.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Mine did not get here today, but it should be soon. Thanks to your party, I earned a free oven and air fryer.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it was very fun.
Well, I'm glad
So
you enjoyed it.
you do a lot of fun things.
I do.
Yeah, you want to tell us a little bit about the fun things you do?
Oh my gosh. Well, of course, as you know, I'm doing the Pampered Chef thing now, which is a ball. I'm passionate about that. I'm also a singer. I also do community theater and things like well, I have one right behind my house, actually. So that worked out nicely. And I am a psychic.
Wow.
Yeah. And in that umbrella term of psychic, we're talking clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience. I'm a medical intuitive. I'm also a natal astrologer. I've been drawing up birth charts since I was 9 years old.
Oh my God.
And I'm a Reiki master, which is a Japanese form of energy healing. I'm an empath. That kind of goes along with some interesting psychological issues we can delve into at some point. But
Yeah.
along with being clairvoyant, it kind of goes in the same territory. I'm a medium as well. I don't usually do a lot of mediumship work because the spirits don't shut up.
Now
They
tell me
don't.
what's the difference between medium and psychic?
Well, a medium is someone who can communicate with spirits, whether they be people who have passed or whether they be spirit guides, angelic beings, nature spirits. It can be any form of, I guess we'll call it paranatural communication. And it kind of also goes with the clairaudience. You can see and hear. So the clairvoyant means clear seeing, which is funny because I'm blind. But
But you
but
see,
yeah, but I see things that other people in general do not see, including auras. I see people's
wow.
auras and chakras and meridian points, other types of energy centers. And yeah,
Have you been able to do all this since you were young? You said you started at 9 with the natal charts, but all
yeah.
the other good stuff, did that come early on?
I have always and I didn't know here's an interesting thing. I've always seen and spoken to other beings or spirits, I guess we will call them. I was always told they were my imaginary friends when I was really little. That
Ah,
tends to be something we're all told. I've always seen auras around people, and I would ask like my parents, I'm like, do you see the colors around? And they're like, what are you talking about? I have something called, and there's been an interesting book about that. Oh, what is the word for it? It's a sensory type of issue where, for example, you can see feelings or
oh,
you
wow.
can hear them, there's a word for this and I can't think of it right now. But there's a book about it called Monday is a Blue Day, which it is. Monday is blue. very
Wow.
much so.
I gotta
I
look at that.
I asked my mom one time if she could see her headaches because I was having a lot of headaches when I hit puberty. Like hormone induced type migraines.
Right.
And I could see them. I could tell you the shape of them and the color of them. And she was like, no. so but my father said, well, yeah, I know what that is. So I think that might have,
Oh, so
I,
he knew.
it's kind of a sensory integration type of issue
Hmm.
where the senses kind of overlap each other. And and I've always done interesting things like astral travel, even as a kid, just by accident. I would be somewhere else completely, but yet
Oh
physically
my
I
gosh.
would be here.
Was that ever
And
scary?
huh?
Was that ever scary?
Yeah, it's been more scary as an adult. As a kid, I was just like, okay, well, I'm just, somewhere. And then it'd be like, Earth to Nikki, wait, what? Huh? And you have the
Wow.
sensation of literally snapping back into your own body. But
Oh
I
my
didn't know that's
gosh.
what that was because I didn't grow up in a family where any of that was really explored or much less condoned because I did grow up Baptist.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
but my mom is the one that developed the interest in astrology, and she bought a book. I don't remember the name of it, but by an astrologer named Linda Goodman, who I loved. She passed away a long time ago, I
Mm.
think in the 90s. Still one of my favorite astrology authors to this day. But she had a book, and you could learn to draw up natal charts with this book. And my mom was like, you should see if you can make anything out of this because she didn't get it. And I literally sat down and went, oh, yeah, I know how to do this. And
Oh,
started doing the math and everything and drawing up birth charts like it was second nature,
that
which
is amazing.
I think all of this really is for most people that express any type of psychic or occult science gift. It's kind of innate. And all children, for example, are inherently spiritually gifted. But unfortunately, through society just kind of trains that out of you. You're taught, no matter what, to doubt yourself.
Yeah, that's
And
sad.
that transcends just psychic issues. We're all, unfortunately, taught as we get older. We'll always second guess yourself, always doubt that inherent, intuitive, still small voice.
Oh, yeah. Did you ever question your mental health or did anybody else?
Um, uh, I think that I grew up in a time period where, well, first of all, girls were never, hardly ever diagnosed with anything. You
Right.
had boys that were diagnosed as quote unquote hyperactive. And about that time, they were giving out Ritalin. But I was always a bit of a problem kid in school, not as far as being mean or being rotten, but I was the kid who couldn't focus, very ADHD of me. I ended up in the hallway all the time because I was a distraction. I was the kid who got talks too much,
It's
always
called motor
doodling
mouth.
in the margins, all that kind of stuff. But nobody really ever questioned my mental health as far as wondering if I had some type of diagnosable condition. I did go through a very severe time of depression when I was about sixth, seventh, eighth grade. A
Oh,
lot of it had to do with bullying. I was definitely different, extremely different. And my mother always said I was the square peg trying to fit into the round hole. Now, with my youngest daughter is on the spectrum, and I see so much of myself in her. And I forget the name of the test. There's a test that you can take. It's even online where it gives you the likelihood of whether you are on the autism spectrum. And I scored about off the charts. It's a lot
wow.
of sense. I was incredibly immature and socially awkward, and those were the words used at the time. That was in the 80s.
Well, yeah, my daughter, my youngest child, my daughter is autistic as well,
Mhm.
and I've questioned whether I am or not. I never felt like I belonged. I always felt like everybody else knew something I didn't.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way myself, and I thought I should belong. I tried to.
Right.
I really did. I didn't grow up in an uncaring home. We had
Oh, yeah.
our own issues, but like my mom is awesome. You know my
Right.
mom.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, she is an amazing woman. And it's thanks to her that I didn't completely abandon these spiritual gifts because she was exploring and questioning a little bit herself, just in that area of astrology.
Ah,
She's always thought that was interesting. And it's kind of because of that that I started to delve further and further into. I started with that, and then I just started reading more on different subjects. And then when I was 17 years old, my very best friend at the time, I don't know, her name was Erica. She gave me my very first tarot deck, and I
oh,
literally sat down and did a reading for her right there.
you didn't even have to read the book, did you?
No, and you're not really, I mean, you can read the book, but that's not really how tarot works. Tarot is supposed to be interpretive.
Mm-hmm.
It has some general guidelines here and there, but it's supposed to be more inspired by things like free association.
Ah,
And because the language of spirit is very symbolic in nature, and like dreams are very symbolic in nature.
oh,
They
yeah.
are not meant to be taken literally. Once in a blue moon, yeah, you'll have something that's very precognitive. I've had those dreams before, and that can be scary. But frequently, for example, I know when I dream about earthquakes, it doesn't mean literal earthquakes, but it does mean that things are about to go really sideways on probably a global scale.
Oh, wow.
Needless to say, I've had a lot of earthquake dreams lately.
I can see that. Yeah.
And tornado dreams tend to be tied more to personal, emotional chaos for me.
Wow. Do you just
Uh,
figure that out after having the dream and then those things happen enough times?
yeah, and that one I started figuring out when I was a terror of tornadoes. I don't have that fear anymore. I overcame that. But I was literally up until my late 20s, early 30s, petrified. It was a phobia for me. But I'd had so many dreams, and then I started to delve into a little bit more dream interpretation and realized that it was very similar to tarot interpretation, that
Really?
the symbolic language speaks mainly to the right, that more right brained, and I know that's an outdated perspective, but that more right brain, what we typically
Right.
used to associate with that perspective, the more symbology, and that it needed the free association in order for that other part of the brain to go, oh, that's making sense now. Okay.
Oh,
And when I talk to people, when I'm giving them readings and we talk about their dreams, I'm saying, all right, you got to keep a dream journal, first of all. Secondly, you need to sit down and write it down immediately. As when when you have a dream that really sticks, it's going to stick with you. Wake up before you go to the bathroom or anything. Write it down. Then you leave it alone and you come back to it like 2 weeks later and you read through it and you let that inspire some free association, and then you let that lead you in the direction of something that makes sense.
right.
Oftentimes like numbers will repeat themselves or they'll stand out, or words or colors or specific imagery. But like for example, usually when we dream about other people, they aren't actually those other people. They tend to represent aspects of ourself. Now we're getting into some interesting Jungian type of dream interpretation.
Yeah. I always think I'm going to remember the dream, so I don't need to write it down because it's so clear at the time. I think, how could I
Mhm.
forget this? And then it's gone.
Yeah, later on you come back and you go, I know I dreamt something. I know it matters.
Yeah.
But you get so caught up in the day to day hustle and bustle of life. You've got so many things that your prefrontal cortex is trying to prioritize, emphasis on the word trying. And you have these things that you have to prioritize in waking life for survival more
Oh,
than
yeah.
anything. You've got to go to work. You've got to make the money. You've got to make food. You've got to,
Hmm.
you got to pay the bills. You got to do this, that, and the other. And it's no wonder that things like that get lost because they're not really part of long term memory. They're more stuck there in the working memory, which is fleeting.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, do you think that your neurodivergence feeds into all of your gifts?
I think it does. I think that one is part of the other. I might obviously because things appear differently to me. And because I can feel the mood in a room, because I can see the colors that are around people and things like that, I'm going to have a different perspective. And
Right.
that perspective is going to feed the way I behave. And when it comes to neurodivergence, it's all more about behavior than anything, but it's also about perspective and the way and perception as well. I always say that perception is about 9/10 of reality, and the other tenth is unlimited possibility.
Oh, I love
Infinite.
that.
I get all of this input. And first of all, I don't believe in destiny. I don't believe in it. I believe in choices. Now, I do believe that stuff happens. I believe that we are dealt a certain hand of cards. You can't control most of the things that are happening, but you
Right.
can control what you do with it. So life is about choices. So I try, and I've learned over time. I mean, 51 years is a decent amount of time on this planet. So
Mhm.
I have, and I think I've gotten a little better at it. I hope, anyway, that I can take those differences in perception and perspective, and now I can use them to make more informed choices and to help other people make it more informed choices, which is what I try to focus on when I read for someone, if whether it be sitting down and getting messages from people who have passed, or whether I'm reading tarot, which I do almost everything along with tarot. I call my version of reading tarot, I call it holistic tarot, because I
Oh,
look at the whole picture. I use my clairvoyance, my clairaudience, my clairsentience. I use my medical intuition. I use all of these different gifts, plus my knowledge of astrology and all of these different things in my mediumship. And I channel that through the symbology of tarot, and I just put it all together
wow.
to bring these messages to people. But I always try to emphasize it's still about your choice. If I tell you something you don't like, and I am not the kind of person to sugarcoat anything,
Right.
that's also one of the things that always
In
got me in
trouble.
trouble, is that I'm relatively blunt. But I tell people, if you don't like what I tell you, if you don't like what I'm seeing, 9 times out of 10, you have the ability to change it. I can't stand when people come back to me and go, "Oh, you said this horrible thing was going to happen, and it did." I'm like, "But I told you that so it wouldn't.
Right. Yeah.
I told you this was the wrong guy for you so you could get out of that relationship because you were going to get hurt, right?" And it's like,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, and this happens with, I'm going to use this as an example. This was many years ago. I was reading for someone, and they sat down with a friend of theirs. Now, when people sit together, their auras change. And especially if they're close, good friends, married people, siblings, they merge and
Oh,
create an entirely new field of energy. And they sat down. I saw this red, intense, painful red
ooh.
that came into this aura, and it goes from the right to the left, came in from the right, goes up. And I got horrible chest pains, horrible, because that's part of medical intuition, as you can even feel other people's
Oh, wow.
stuff. And I can take things forward in time and backwards in time, see what caused it or see where it's headed. I don't diagnose things, but I see energy signatures. But what I told them both said, I'm not sure which one of you this refers to, because there's too much energy for both of you going on. But both of you, take yourself to the doctor, have your heart checked. This is serious stuff. I saw the one person I was reading for 2 months later at a diner, just chance meeting. And they said, I asked how they were doing, and they said, "You gave a reading to me, my friend, and I to myself, but my friend was with me. And you told us about this potential cardiac problem." I said, "Yeah, I remember." And they said, "Well, I went to the doctor and got checked out and everything's fine, but they did not take the advice and they passed away of a heart attack
Oh,
just a few weeks ago." I'm like, "Oh my God." And I was in my probably mid 30s at the time, and I hadn't dealt with anything that serious yet.
wow.
And it devastated me. I almost quit reading.
I was just going to say that's a life-changing kind of event.
It was. And then I sat with it. I meditated. Meditation, very important for developing your spiritual gifts, on a side note. I sat with it. I meditated on it. And the message I got was, you did what you were supposed to do. You gave them the message. You cannot control whether or not they do anything about it.
That makes sense to me. And I've always heard with tarot cards that it's not telling your future. It's saying this is the path you're on. If you decide to stay on this path, this could happen.
Yes. Or if you go this other way, this could be the
Mhm.
outcome. These are the potential outcomes.
Yeah,
Now, sometimes you can get a clear yes and no, and you can get a pretty clear answer. The more specific your questions, the more specific the answers are going to be. I can sit down and give a great general reading, but it's going to go wherever spirit wants it to go, not necessarily where the querent wants it to go.
right. Yeah.
Because oftentimes people have, oh my Lord, I'm rolling my eyes right now, but you get so many love life questions.
Oh, I bet.
And it's
Especially
just
from
like,
young people, I bet.
obviously, you need to work on yourself. Or you wouldn't be asking me about this.
I know.
Where's the right person? Well, first of all, you have to be the right person for yourself.
Hmm. My mom used to tell me all the time when I'd ask her, why can't I find somebody? She'd say, Amy, you have to love yourself first. And I always thought that was such a bunch of BS. And then later, when I finally learned to love myself, I was like, oh, that's what she meant.
Yes. I always use the analogy of the flight attendant that says if we lose cabin pressure and the oxygen masks drop down from the ceiling, put yours on first
Yes,
before helping the people around you, because you cannot help them if you're passed out from oxygen deprivation.
right. You're no good.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can be no good to anybody else if you're not good to and for yourself. And that delves into a whole lot of this too. I mean, this we could go on for hours.
Oh, I'm sure. So, have you ever had a reading that made you just laugh?
Oh God, so many.
Really?
I don't even know. I mean, now sometimes I get some wackadoodle out there questions, but
Yeah.
I have had some that I got so tickled about because I God, there's been so many. I'm trying to think of a specific example because oddly enough, those are not the ones that stick with you as much.
Oh, okay.
But there have been times when my querent and I have been in stitches. Like I have almost literally fallen on the floor from laughing so hard. And it usually just has to do with something I see coming their way. Like, for example, I frequently will see when a child is coming into someone's life.
Ah.
And sometimes I get the coolest because these little souls already exist
Mm-hmm.
in the aether, and they will come through and be like, and some of them are just so, ornery, mischievous
Oh,
little
how fun.
souls that are showing me little glimpses of what their personality is going to be like and how they're going to be. And I'm like, oh my Lord, this kid is a corker. This is the kid that quietly plays the practical jokes, but then looks at you like, who, me?
Right. Who's
And
that?
you just get so tickled. Or I will sometimes run across the spirit of someone who's passed. Grandpas are like this a lot. They tend to be the more ornery ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll
In
come
the
through
waking life, yeah.
frequently saying something that they said in life so they can, this is how they're going to know it's me. And they get these mischievous little grins and maybe pull on somebody's ear or, and it's like, what? And then
Now,
I've had some downright scary ones.
oh,
I've had some, well, I think the issue with the heart attack is probably the most.
yeah, that's severe.
Yeah. Now, I haven't had any type of horribly horrible entities come through because, in all honesty, there isn't such a thing.
Right.
Because all there is, when you boil down to it, is love.
Yes, I agree.
God is love. Whatever you see as God, the universe, the what, I don't care what word you use for it. In
Mm-hmm.
the end, there's only love. And there is so much stigma. And I will blame a lot of it on certain monotheistic religion. There's so much stigma around,
Oh, yeah.
and they're like, oh, demonic possession. But no, 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 no. That is not how this works. A lot of these things that people get that come through that are negative are thought forms. And
Mhm.
in astral, in spirit, in the aether, all these different words for it. Thoughts are real. And if you put negative energy out there, that's what you're going to create.
Right. You're giving power to those thoughts.
Yes. And then you are creating the form of the thought that you have put out there. And you got to be careful with that. However, actual beings, actual entities, whether spiritual or otherwise, are not demonic or evil or anything like that. It's not how it works. And oddly, we could really get into some interesting discussions about death and what happens after you die and things like that, because that's nothing like most people think it is. Nothing.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
I will tell you, though, that a lot of people who have the gift of mediumship are misdiagnosed with disorders like schizophrenia.
Ah,
Schizophrenia being a very, very real diagnosis.
right.
And a friend of my daughter's had been diagnosed with this many, many, many years ago as a child. She came to my house. I'm a pagan, and we celebrate the wheel of the year. And one of our big time celebrations is the winter solstice, Yule. And we do, my family at my house, we have celebrated Yule every year. And sometimes we invite close friends over and things like that for our Yule celebration. And I do a Yule ritual. I do what's called calling the quarters, and I bless everything and I cleanse the space. And one of the things that I do when I'm blessing, and I'm like, no spirits or anything, no thoughts, nothing can come into this space without being of good intention. Only good and pure thoughts and that's it, you know.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, this young lady, and I think that my daughters were early in high school at the time. This young lady, after we were all done, the celebration was over, after I had closed the circle and everything, she said, that's the first time in my life I haven't heard the voices. And I said, honey, that's because you're not schizophrenic. You're a medium. I kept spirit in general. I kept spirits out of my circle. I didn't want anything distracting from the energy we were trying to raise, from
Yeah.
focusing on the good that comes with the returning of the sun, the days getting longer. That's what the solstice is about, the return of light in a time of darkness.
That
And
changed your whole future.
yeah, and it did. She's a practicing pagan herself now, and it just completely changed her perspective, and she was able to get control of that gift.
Oh, I got chills. That's so cool.
And I was like, that's it's mediumship. You're going to, when you have a very clear mediumship gift, you're going to hear messages and things from your spirit guides and stuff, and that can easily be misinterpreted.
And that was a question I was going to ask you. How do you distinguish between intuition and intrusive thoughts or just overthinking something?
Intrusive thoughts tend to snowball.
Okay.
They also tend to be really wackadoodle off the wall thoughts, like real intrusive thoughts. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, so I deal with this on a regular basis, the actual intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
Example, you can be doing something totally normal, making macaroni and cheese. I really don't want to put this in anybody's head, but I'm going to anyway. I'm going to give you an example of an intrusive thought that I had while at dinner that spawns my ritualistic behaviors that I have to do in order to quell the anxiety from obsessive compulsive disorder.
Okay.
I'm making macaroni and cheese, just homemade macaroni and cheese. I've made it a million times. Suddenly, what I see, not literally see, but in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
is a bunch of roach eggs hatching in the macaroni and cheese and
Oh,
just massive amount of cockroaches crawling out of my macaroni. And I'm like,
oh,
and I go into immediate panic. I know it's not happening. I know it's not a realistic fear. I know it's my mind playing tricks on me, because that's not a thing that's going to be happening,
right.
particularly since I'm boiling stuff on the stove and things like that. But
Yeah.
the fear is real. The fear is overwhelming. You can't make the intrusive thought go away with logic and reason. You have to find a way to quell the anxiety when you have obsessive compulsive disorder, hence the compulsion. The obsession is the intrusive thought. The compulsion is the ritualistic behavior that follows. That's how you define obsessive compulsive disorder. Not
Uh,
the same as obsessive compulsive personality disorder. That's a completely different thing. Um, but the compulsive behavior has to be engaged in order to make the intrusive thought anxiety go away.
Okay.
Now, that's an intrusive thought. The difference between that and intuition is there's a stillness to intuition. Does that make sense?
Yes.
There's a sense of, my grandmother used to call it, and it's actually in biblical scripture, called it the gift of knowing.
Okay. Yeah.
This is not a guess. This is not a possibility. Does that make sense? I mean, it is a possibility,
Yeah.
but
It's knowing. Yeah.
there's like, no, I know this. I know this. And well, how do you know that? I can't explain this because I know. I just know. When I have that sense of knowing, it's not wrong. It's never wrong. Now, there are times when I get lost in interpretations and I might go, because I'm human, I'm not God,
Right.
like I might get lost in the interpretation and wander down the wrong path. And usually if I'm listening, Spirit's going to go, back this way, get back on the path. Come on. But that sense of knowing that comes with true intuition,
Yeah.
that's different than the anxiety of intrusive thoughts.
That makes sense.
The anxiety is the what if. The what if game is not part of intuition.
I gotcha. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Have you ever had a message that came through that you didn't want to share with someone?
Um, Let me think. I'm pretty sure I have. I mean, there are times when I just go, not doing it. Find somebody else.
Ah,
Because and yet they okay. The messages you get from those who've crossed over, for example, you don't have to pass them on. Now, sometimes if I'm reading for somebody and a message does come through, I will give it to them.
okay.
There are things you don't do ethically. You don't tell somebody if you see if they're going to die. You
Oh, yeah,
don't
that would
do
be
it.
awful.
Completely unethical. And nobody's meant to actually truly know that.
Right.
Now you can do what I did and say, somebody needs to get to the doctor.
Right.
I'm feeling the symptoms of heart attack. I don't know which one of you that is because there's just too much energy and I'm overwhelmed by it. But just get checked out. Because when I got that message, I was supposed to pass it on.
Right.
I had to pass it on in order, because it was a preventable medical emergency
Yes.
that could have been stopped. Somebody gets a heart cath, they get a stent, something to that
Mhm.
effect. But that's not how that ended up being, unfortunately.
I know, that's so sad.
But there are times, once in a while, it's not really very common, but I have received some messages that it's not that I don't want to pass them on, but I'm not going to go through the hullabaloo to find the person and do that. That's not what I do.
Wow.
And I get to control that
Okay.
because the cool thing about being living is we have domain. We have dominion over life. We have dominion over our physical time and space.
So does that mean you can, like you did that ritual, you can turn it off?
It's not that I turn it off. I can't ever turn mine off because I've literally walked with one foot on each side of that veil, but
Oh,
I can ignore it and
okay.
go. I'm really good at going, I'm going to do this instead. We'll put this on the back burner. It's kind of like background noise then.
Right. You've
One
got
of the,
good boundaries.
that I cover my hair. I
Mhm.
wrap my hair. Part of that is anxiety control. It's really good. It's like a weighted vest, but it's on my head.
Mhm.
It's a head hug. Part of that actually comes from Kundalini yoga and is head wrapping is a global tradition shared for many different reasons. But in Kundalini, it covers the crown chakra, which helps cover that psychic antenna a little bit and tune out extra psychic noise.
Oh,
So you
wow.
can focus better. It really does help me too. I'm not saying it helps everybody, but
So it's
for
like a
me, it has been a
grounding kind of thing.
godsend. Plus, it's pretty, so that's nice.
Yeah, they are pretty, but that kind of grounds you and
Yeah, it really does. Because I wear shoes to keep my feet on the ground. I'm sure you remember me from high school. I was a freshman when you were a senior, and you were probably very much like that, Nikki, because everybody was kind of like that, Nikki. I don't know.
That's funny. No, I just remember you had an incredible voice.
Oh, thank you. So, and that's coming from you because you have an incredible voice. I remember
Oh,
you
thanks.
making all state choir, and I was like, I want to do that someday, and I did. I did. I followed in Amy's
Oh,
footsteps.
yay. That's awesome. Yeah,
And I
that's
was in Annie with you, and you were fantastic.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I
It
miss
was
those
fantastic.
days. I
I
see
do
you
too.
singing now at church, and I'm like, oh, she's still doing it. I wish I was.
Well, you need to come sing with me sometime.
Yeah,
You
that's
might really enjoy it there too. It's I now sometimes I sing at Unity Southeast, but I frequently sing at Unity Village Chapel. I'll be singing there at Easter,
very.
and yeah, it's a really very open and embracing community. It's not a traditional Christian type of place. It's
Hmm. I
I
used
would
to go
call
to Unity in Overland Park.
yeah, they're very open. They're very interesting combination of many paths.
Hmm.
And pretty much and the whole thing of we embrace all spiritual practices and the diversity of paths that lead to enlightenment.
That's what I liked is I could go on Sunday and I might hear what Buddha had to say, or
Yeah.
I might hear what Mother Teresa had to say, or I might hear from the Bible, or you just didn't know. It was
It's
always interesting.
yeah, it really is. And we're doing like small group things now, and I'm a part of a small group. We'd go out, we do it on via Zoom. And we have a very large online community that's also membership, but that's beside the point. It's a group called Pen and Soul, and it's a creative writing group and exploring how to see the world through different characters.
Oh,
And we do just these little writing exercises, all based on the same thing, but seeing each other's different perspective.
that's
Is
interesting.
like one time we wrote from the perspective of a cherry blossom.
Oh, wow. That's
This, and it was a cherry blossom that was being touched by a little blind boy.
oh,
And it was the coolest thing.
wow.
Yeah, it was deep, man.
Sounds like it.
But I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
That's okay, but I have a question for you.
Sure.
You do all these wonderful readings for people. Can you do it for people in your family and yourself? Can you see what's going on for you?
That is a lot harder to do. And actually, I make it a point not to do readings for people I know extremely well
Okay.
or for myself because I can't be objective. And most of us don't read for ourselves or for people close to us for the same reason. We frequently will go, well, that can't be right. No, 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 that's got to mean something else because you see what you want to see for that person,
Yeah.
what as opposed to what is. And that it's much harder to take the self doubt and the subjective viewpoint out of the equation when you're reading for somebody close to you, and especially for yourself.
Okay.
Especially, it's really, I mean, now there are a few people I think who do that, but they tend to read much more literal interpretive readings for themselves. So
Oh,
instead of interpreting spiritually, they'll sit down with the actual book and look up the actual meaning.
that's what I do with oracle cards.
Yeah, yeah, I know a lot of people who do that with Oracle, and I do it better with Oracle cards for myself than I do with tarot. But I
Yeah.
like Oracle cards. Love that. There are a lot of wonderful oracles. I have a dear friend named Sapphire Moonbeam, and
Wow.
she has the most beautiful oracle deck called Moonbeam Magic, which
Oh,
you can buy. You can buy.
I gotta look
Um,
that up because I collect tarot cards and oracle cards.
oh yeah, me too, me too. But they are gorgeous, and I was a part of her Kickstarter program. So
Um,
I got the deck as for being one of the Kickstarters. This was way back when. I want to say probably at least 6 or 7 years ago.
okay.
And it is the most stunning. It's her own personal artwork. She does energy art, is what she calls it. She's a self-taught artist.
Hmm.
And these cards are stunningly beautiful. And she really, truly put her soul into this, including writing the book for it herself. And it's a wonderful deck. It's
Yeah, I'm
wonderful.
gonna look
But
those
yeah.
up. I know there's a lady named Hattie, and I can't remember her last name right now. I have to look. Hattie Thorne. Have you ever heard of her?
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah.
She has some beautiful cards, and I don't know if she does them herself or if she does AI, but they're gorgeous. And I've got a few of her sets. They're not cheap, but they're really nice.
My current deck of tarot that I use, and I don't remember the author, but the current one that I use on a regular basis for reading, like at fairs, is
Hmm.
called the Chrysalis Tarot. And it's this beautiful overarching theme of transformation.
Wow.
And you can see it in the artwork. It's very butterfly inspired, but
Hmm.
it's also uses a lot of mythological, like, in its influences as far as the imagery, different gods and goddesses, and from many different mythologies, particularly in the major arcana. It's just, and it's stunningly beautiful. Everybody who sits down is like, "Oh my gosh, I love your deck." I'm like, "Thank you." I didn't make it, but
Right. Have you ever made a deck?
no, I have no artistic gift whatsoever when it comes to things like that. I mean, just none. I can't draw a circle. It looks like an amoeba with gaff.
Me either. My sister and my daughter have the most incredible art talents, but it skipped me completely.
That's how I am. My sister is an incredible artist, and both my girls are wonderful artists. And it already looks like my little granddaughter is quite the gift, but not me. Nope, nope. I
You've
got all
got
the
enough
other
gifts.
things. I got the musical gifts and the acting gift, but no, can't draw
Mhm.
to save my life.
You've got a lot of gifts, so you did pretty well. So, what would you say to a person that was trying to lean into their own insights and their own, you know what I mean?
Yes, yes. The first thing I would say is develop a meditation practice. You don't have to be good at it. Meditation is one of these really cool things that is beneficial no matter how good you are at it, no matter how long you do it. You can sit down and just do breath work for a
Okay.
couple of minutes a day. And number one, it's excellent for stress relief. Number two, it's actually healing on multiple levels, including physically. Number three, it's also really good for lowering your blood pressure.
Ah,
And number four, it opens you up to start receiving those messages more clearly. Whether you are clairvoyant or not, clairaudient, clairsentient, whatever it is, you cannot receive these messages, at least in the beginning, with all the noise in your brain constantly going. You've got to find a way to tone it down a little bit. And breath work is great because what is the one thing that we are always doing? We're breathing.
right.
You can live for a couple of weeks without food, a couple of days without water. You can't live for more than a few minutes without oxygen.
Exactly.
And that breath is rhythmic. It's something you can always bring your focus to. Now, that doesn't mean just go, I will not think. No, you're going to think. Thoughts are going to happen. It's okay. You let them come in and then you let them pass and go, all right, did I leave the stove on? You know what? I'll find out in 5 minutes because right now I'm breathing and that feels really good to breathe. And I always tell people to breathe through their nose and out of their mouth, in
Mm.
through their nose, because that's your filter.
Oh,
And you breathe out of your mouth so you're not exhaling the carbon dioxide through your nose.
that makes sense.
But your nose is your filter. You're going to filter the air better that way and then breathing it out through your mouth.
Okay.
But yeah, and there's two apps I really like for meditation. One is Calm, it's a good one.
Okay.
But my favorite is called Balance. And they have some fantastic whole programs, all the way for beginners, all the way through advanced. They have different types of sleep meditations. I'm working on a program right now for pain management meditation. And I have learned some really good techniques, and I teach meditation. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. And does it reduce your pain?
It what it's not that it reduces your pain, but it helps you not focus on your pain.
Oh,
So, for example, that's what led me to my love, my really passionate love that I have now of baking, which led me to Pampered Chef, is when I'm baking, I am so focused on what I'm doing baking wise that I'm not stuck in my pain.
I get that.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, you know how morphine doesn't actually take your pain away, but it makes you not give a flying rip about it?
Yes.
It's not the same feeling, but it's a similar idea. It's a distraction from focus on pain. When you are finding something else to focus on, that can really help.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's going to be there when you get out of the focus, but I'll take whatever relief I can get till I get my back surgery on first.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be a blessing.
Yes, it really is. I know not very many. Everybody's like, "I'm so sorry you have to have surgery," and I'm like, "I'm not, because it's going to help."
Yeah. You're like, thankfully it's happening.
Thankfully, yeah, but it really has helped. In the fact that when I found out that I don't have to be stuck in my pain. Half the
Right.
problem with the pain is being so focused on it that you can't focus on anything else very well. Yeah, for me, baking does that. And music does that. When I am singing, I am in another place. I'm on another plane of existence. That is the truest form for me of what we call the stillness and the silence, even though it's not literal silence.
Right. No, I
Uh,
get that.
I'm in a place where I am so connected to spirit that it's just flowing. I'm letting it flow through me.
Yeah. That's
And
how
because
it is for me listening to music.
yes,
It,
yes.
I never would have made it through the teenage years without music.
And I think that's especially true for people our age, people those us Gen Xers.
Mm-hmm.
Our music was our solace and our refuge.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what I would say.
It really was. For some people, it's their artwork that
Hmm.
puts them in that state. They've actually done studies that show that coloring can put people in a very similar state of consciousness as deep meditation.
That's fascinating. And they've got a new type of coloring out. Have you heard about this?
No,
Where they have a vague picture and you draw the outlines of everything, like maybe it's flowers or whatever, but you don't know what it is until you draw the outlines on the page.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, they're on Amazon. I saw those and was like, that is different.
I'm always looking for new things because I do like to color.
Hmm.
And I'm always like, you've got to have a creative outlet. I think that is really important
Well,
for,
that you can just do without thinking.
yes, exactly. And that's the point. The point is to get out of the thinking, to get out of your own head.
Exactly.
Because it's when you're in your head and you're stuck in there that it's like, and then you can't get in touch with those gifts as well. You can't open yourself up to receiving the messages that are meant for you because they're not in your brain. I mean, I'm sure they inspire thoughts, they inspire things like that, but
Right.
it's deeper than that. A soul communication is deeper than a mental type of communication. So
Right.
when we say clear seeing, it's not a physical form of seeing, although sometimes it can definitely seem that way. It is spiritual sight, which
Hmm.
can kind of overlay the physical sight, but you know very well that in the physical 3D reality, that's not what your eyeballs are seeing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It's
And the
sort
same
of
with hearing. Like I hear the messages, but I know they're not literally talking to me. I'm not actually hearing a person's voice. It is internal, but on a deeper level.
okay. I get.
But it puts words to it because I'm a very verbal processor.
Me too.
And so oftentimes people are like, well, who are you talking to? I'm like, well, and I don't want to sit there and go, well, I'm talking to my guides, but I speak out loud to them. We carry on conversations.
How funny. Yeah, my daughter talks to her games all the time, and I'll be in the other room and I'll go, who are you talking to, honey? I think she's on the phone or something. She's like, my game.
My oldest daughter used to talk to her math homework.
Oh, how funny.
And the other day she was over here grading papers and she was talking to her grading.
Oh,
I
wow.
was like, this is great.
That is great. Well, Nikki, I have really enjoyed our conversation. I have learned so much.
Oh, thank you. I've enjoyed it too. I love this.
Oh, great. Is there anything that you'd like to just kind of leave our audience with? Something you'd like to say as a last kind of leave them with something?
I would very much like to say to take a deep breath and let yourself be guided gently by that still, small voice inside to just freaking stop overthinking everything because we all do it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no place for self doubt in the world of spiritual gifts. It's not self doubt is not a spiritual gift.
Right. Oh, gosh, gave me chills again. That's twice in this conversation.
Oh, sweet, sweet. I love it. But yeah, that just learn to trust that still small voice because it isn't going to lead you wrong.
Right.
And it does not inspire anxiety. It might inspire a type of fear that's a self preservation type of fear, like don't walk down that alley right now.
Right.
But it's not the kind that leads to those weird, intrusive type of thoughts we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kind that just goes, no, go this way. Take
Okay.
this other way this time.
Just kind of directs you.
Yeah, it's gentle. It's a gentle type of, and even the alarm system is like, now, hey, let's go this way tonight. You know, hey, maybe you should take that umbrella with you because it makes a good weapon. Maybe you should take that umbrella with you. You know what? Maybe call somebody and walk with them. You know,
Yeah.
maybe make sure your spare tire is filled with air today. Just check that, you know?
I think of all the times I have ignored that inner voice, and I need to do that more.
And I'm sure there are times when you've ignored that inner voice and you've thought later, I wish I would have listened to myself.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I
man.
know we all have those times. And then I know that we all have those stories where it's like, I knew that was coming. I felt that
Mm-hmm.
was coming.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah.
so glad I didn't go that way today because I
Right.
didn't fear about something happening, you know, later. Or I'm so glad that I had to turn around and go get something that I left at home.
And you missed the accident, or yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
amazing world.
Yeah, it really is. When we listen and we pay attention to those little they're very subtle communications. Yeah, it's not going to shout at you and whack you upside the head. On the other hand, if you're supposed to be learning something and you stubbornly don't, it will keep repeating the lesson
You
over
know,
and over again, and it gets more intense each time until it hits
that's
you with the
so
cosmic two by
funny
four.
because about a month ago, I was drawing oracle cards on a daily basis.
Hmm.
For like, I'm not kidding, for like 2 weeks straight, no matter how I mixed that deck and shuffled it, I kept pulling the high priestess.
Ah,
And I was like, what am I supposed to be getting from this? And I talked to my friend, or Tacey,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and she said, well, did you get what you're supposed to get from that? And I said, no. And she's like, that's why you keep pulling it.
You have to sit with that. You have to sit with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let it inspire you. Let it free associate with it for a while. Sit down and when it comes to the cards, sit down and really focus on the details of the picture. Things that stand out that you may not have noticed before. Animals that might be in the background, or colors, or shapes, or even numbers. Things will show up that you haven't noticed before, and those will be important.
I'll have to try that. All right, Nikki. Well, thank you again. I really enjoyed you coming on the show today.
Oh, I really enjoyed being here, and I enjoyed your pampered chef party. You were a great host, by the way. That was
Oh,
really fun.
thanks.
Had a
It
great
was
time.
fun. And I will put your information in the show notes so that anybody
Okay.
else who's interested in the Pampered Chef Party can sign up.
The psychic pampered chef party.
Yes.
I
Sounds
believe
like
you need
fun.
an oven and air fryer.
Yeah. Hey, I got mine coming. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I'm excited too. All right. Thank you so much, Amy. I've really had fun.
Oh, me too.
Hey everyone, it's Amy again, just popping in to wrap things up. Wow, wasn't that an incredible chat with Nikki? I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. She's got such a fun and unique outlook on the world. And I love how she can just roll with anything and everything from tarot to pampered chef parties. If you're curious about Nikki's work or you want to know more about those cool pampered chef goodies, I'll drop all her info in the show notes. Seriously, you won't want to miss out. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. And if you liked what you heard, be sure to hit that subscribe button and maybe leave us a review if you're feeling extra generous. Until next time, keep listening to that inner voice. And remember, a little magic is always possible in your day. Keep advancing, warriors.